This is Goals with Soul, the podcast for visionary coaches and entrepreneurs, building your business with inspired action. In alignment with your mission and authentic message, so you can create impact for your soul clients and feel lit up every day. I'm your host, Jo Ingram, married mum of 3 daughters from London and a former ad agency director turned business coach and strategist. In Goals with Soul, we blend revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategies with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. If you're looking to build your business with less efforting and more ease, this is the podcast for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Goals with Soul. I'm Jo Ingram, and as you probably know, I like talking about building businesses with ease. And that comes from a good reason, because I went into that whole burnout thing and understood that I pushed and strived and proved when really I wanted ease and grace. And I dived into the spiritual side of business building and the woo-woo side. And I also looked for practical ways of making life easier and not quite so tiring, because we all want our businesses to create freedom and choices and sheer joy. And so this week, I'm so excited to be talking to Mindi Huebner. Mindi's an intuitive mindset mastery coach. She's an NLP practitioner, as well as a certified health, life and success coach and clinical hypnotherapist. Now, Mindi knows that rewiring your brain is the key to unlocking your magic, so you can create a soul-aligned business and an extraordinary life. Her number one mission is helping women to reveal and release their limiting beliefs and embrace the confident, wildly successful humans that they were made to be. Now, if that isn't something that's going to create ease, I don't know what is. And the first time I met with Mindi, she and I were just talking so much. We had so much in common. And some of the things she said and the ways that she helped her clients made me realize that it's okay to want ease, but it's even better to have ways of creating ease, ways that are both within our mindset and practical ways to make running our businesses easier. So I'm so excited to share with you my conversation with Mindi. Let's dive in. Welcome, Mindi. I'm so happy to have you on Goals with Soul.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Cool, because you cover one of my favorite subjects, which is getting rid of all those tricky little brain gremlins so we can actually achieve our potential. And so many of us have so much to give, and then we get stuck in all this mind chatter and stuff that just keeps us playing small. And I know that you work with people all the time to get them to transcend that. But tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of how you came about to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guide successful, established female entrepreneurs into revealing and releasing the limiting beliefs, just like you said, the brain gremlins that really at this moment are keeping them overthinking, overwhelmed, really in way too much self-doubt, because a little is a good thing, right? Like this keeps us healthy. It's when it goes over that tipping point so that they can truly create a soul-aligned business, step into that confident, wildly successful version of themselves that I truly believe is already on the inside. We have everything we need inside us. It's just a matter of unlocking that magic, rewiring the brain, and then stepping into it. And then stepping into it again. It's this beautiful evolvement process. As women, we can tend, some of us, to get into the, well, if this, then if I'm enough, then if I'm striving for more, then I'm greedy kind of a thing. No, you're enough and you get to evolve. These are the two beautiful truths that you get to hold. Having a bigger business, being thinner, more kids, any of those things, that won't change your enoughness. You're already fully, wholly worthy, fully, wholly enough. You get to evolve. You get to step into something greater that you want for yourself as well.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's true, as you're saying that stuff, I'm just thinking that we judge ourselves so harshly that we feel we have to have certain attainments before we feel good enough. And then, of course, no matter what we attain, that feeling never seems to come, at least not before we do the inner work and actually get that understanding. So what are the kind of problems that you frequently see women who are climbing that success ladder, that trip them up?
Definitely overthinking. Although here's what's really interesting about it. Most of the women that come to me they have an extremely successful business and it is not soul aligned. They're working on it and they are stuck in the belief that it has to be done like all the gurus are saying. It has to be in this box. It has to suck your soul. You have to hustle, da 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 da. And they don't want that. And they know that it's their own beliefs getting in the way of that. So how do they get past that? That's when they come to me. That's when they know, okay, this is where I need to go. I know that you can have a soul aligned business. I was that woman who was very successfully hustling and grinding for a very long time, not even knowing that there was a sustainable way for me. And this was all about me tapping into really releasing the limiting belief that I had that rest was lazy. So I also find that most of the women that come to me, very driven, very know how to operate really well in their masculine, in that let's get it done, let's do it. And that's a beautiful thing. I operated there for the majority of my life. And then I was like, wow, this gets to have flow and ease and joy and alignment in it. And I don't have to sleep when I'm dead. And I don't have to, like, all of these things, that happen. I don't have to do any of those things. I can have this beautiful harmony between who I am and who I want to evolve into.
Oh my God, as I'm hearing you saying this stuff, I'm like, now I remember why we connected, because it's like reading my own book, literally, the stuff you're saying. It was like, yep, too much in my masculine, had to embrace my feminine, got burned out, had this idea that hustle and hard work equals success. All of the things you're describing are so incredibly familiar to me. And I mean, I feel really blessed, the way that sometimes problems are blessings. And in my first year of business, I got so burned out. I was like, no. And I found the feminine and I found alignment as a word and a concept and started really diving into all of that. And I love it when you say you can still have an aligned business and be really successful. And I'd love to know how do you bring someone back from being so obsessed with the hard work and the hustle to finding their alignment when they've gone so far in their business that they think they must be quite attached to that way of working?
I love this question. And they are attached in a very disempowering way. And so they're ready to become detached. This is also why they find me. I don't want to do this anymore and I don't know what to do. So we go into business, most of us, for freedom, right? We want to serve. Don't get me wrong. We want to make an impact. Of course, at least I'm going to speak for myself. I want to make financial, I want financial gain from it, as well as serving and making an impact. I didn't go into business to work 24/7, to, let my health go downhill, to right, all of those things that we can fall into when we get to one tracked, when we get too caught up in, I've got to grind, I've got to hustle. Does building a business require some hustle? Absolutely. Does keeping a business require some hustle? Yes. It gets to be aligned hustle. It gets to be you hustling in a way that doesn't detract from everything in your life. So I talked to them about, well, what would it look like if this was your dream business? How many hours would you be working? I've taken women from being really in their business, like doing one-on-one and being the face of everything. They don't want to do that anymore. So they're shifting to less time in the business like that, more evergreen, more, those passive types of things, because that's what they want. They're still making a huge impact. They're literally shifting it into a soul aligned business, taking more time off. Like I said, I was under the very false assumption that rest was lazy. And I now know that rest breeds productivity. When I rest, then I can hit the ground running and do those times of aligned hustle so that I can then create that thing, launch that thing, and then rest again. Rest is always programmed into my calendar, and sometimes a lot more than others, depending on what cycle I have been in, right? In business, have I been in a launch cycle? Have I been in then there's even more rest. There's even more integration time. And that switch, flipping that switch from rest is lazy to rest breeds productivity was just like, it was a game changer for me.
Gosh, I mean, to hear you speak that just feels so like giving permission almost, because that's something that I really struggled with. And through that burnout phase, telling myself not only could I rest, but it was actually the best thing I could do. Mm-hmm. And I know when I dived into law of attraction and things like that, that absolutely consolidated my belief that the more I could take time out and just be, the less I would have to do. Which, you know, I'm human and I never get everything right. And so sometimes I'm doing that really well. And other times I have to remind myself. And it's easy to remind myself because I feel terrible. It's like,
right?
What's wrong? I go, oh my gosh, I've forgotten my own commitments to myself. And quite often for me, that looks like going to have a bath in the middle of the day. And I get my salt, my lavender, and I'm just like, no, I'm not sitting at my desk for a minute longer today. That's done. But it doesn't come easy. I completely understand it. And like, how do you make it so people who are so like hardwired in this way, but they're calling out and they're saying, I've had enough. What's some of the strategies that you go through or mindset shifts?
Yeah, we talk about what's the belief? The belief is that rest is lazy. When did you decide this? Like, and what is this? If you didn't believe this anymore, what would open up to you? What's a more empowering belief about rest or about whether or not you're lazy? Like this whole lazy, like, man, is that a hot button for me? Because it was very difficult. It's not only a world construct, right? It was a familial construct, and not in a bad way. My parents worked. Like my dad basically was a workaholic. My parents split up. My mom worked to support our family. I didn't see her self-care. Like I didn't see her rest or do those things. And she never said rest is lazy. It was just what I picked up. It was the meaning I gave to laying around all day kind of a thing, which you want to lay around all day, have at it, right? like take the time. And once I realized if this was a belief that I had taken on from the world, like we also talk about this. Well, where did this come from? Like, what made you decide this? And sometimes we get this great epiphany, and sometimes it doesn't matter where the belief came from. Are you ready to give it a different meaning? Here's one thing that I love to do with a client. So they've decided, rest equals laziness. And I'm like, okay, so when did you decide this? I decided when I was like 10, when this happened. I'm like, okay, great. I want you to pop that memory up. It's whole and complete. Like you're safe. You're good. You're wise. You're here with all the learnings, kind of a thing. And we look at this and I say, okay, now Liz, we're going to take a sticky note of the meaning that you gave it. And you said, this happened. My teacher said this to me. My mother said this to me, whatever, and you put this sticky note on it of rest equals lazy. Okay, from this moment, from this lesson, from this learning, what else could this mean? And we just start to go down the list of what more empowering meaning we could give to this decision. Because here's what we do all the time, Joe. Something happens, boom, we decide, oh, that means this. Somebody cuts us off in traffic, we decide that guy's a jerk. Like we don't yet when we accidentally cut someone off in traffic, we're not jerks, are we? Like, no, we're just accidentally cut somebody off in traffic.
We're just having a bad day.
We just decide like so quickly, so automatically sometimes we don't realize until it like smacks us. And then we go, someone like me says, so when did you decide that? When did you decide that rest was lazy? And for me, if somebody said it to me, I don't know when I decided that rest was lazy, but I know it was in my bones for a really long time. I married a man who believes the same thing. Like this, we were just drawn to each other, that driven, accomplished, successful. So I've really had to try to retrain his brain on that. He's not nearly as far along as I am, but I don't listen to him anymore. I know that rest breeds productivity for me and he can do what he wants to do.
You see there, I've got the opposite because my husband is very, very happy chilling out. I mean, he works, he does his thing, but he's got his hobbies. And if he wants to play his guitar, then that's his me time and stuff like this. And if I come along and I'm kind of like, what you up to? That doesn't look very productive. So it can cause some real problems if you can't see, as luckily, at least I'm self-aware of it these days.
Yes.
And I can walk by and be like, my brain says, he's not working hard. I'm working hard. And then I go, shut up, love. Just
I love
back
that.
in your box.
See the meaning? See the meaning? You've decided. He's chosen something. You've decided it means something. Like we do this so often. And so often it's also very disempowering, like the snap decision. So when we're more intentional, more thoughtful, more purposeful, and we go back, we can be like, well, now I'm going to decide on purpose that this means this, because this serves me. This is empowering for me. This can move me forward. By the time I'm done with a client with that exercise, we've got the one sticky note that was the original meaning. And then we've got 7, 8, 9, 10 empowering meanings, different meanings, which brings us to, so can we agree that the original meaning is not the truth? It's not the meaning of what this is, that there are many meanings that we could give this. All of a sudden, this opens up our RAS. This opens up the filter that our brain uses because it deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on our belief. So the whole time I believed that rest was lazy, nothing could get through my brain, nothing could get through my filter to my mind to show me evidence to the contrary, because my brain's got to filter all the information coming at me. So whether someone else showed me or I just like fell into, oh, well, maybe it doesn't mean that, all of a sudden then I could start seeing proof that maybe there was a different perspective for it.
That's so smart and, so essential as well. It's like, I know that you work with women and high performers who've been in business for a certain length of time. And I know a lot of my listeners are more at the beginning phases of their business, but I would say it's absolutely essential, even from the beginning, to get that alignment, to building good practices, because then you can build your business with ease.
It's even better.
And you can have sustainability. Yeah.
It's even better. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. When you can start with that foundation of not trying to course correct, right? Of not trying to retrain, it's even better for you. Absolutely. Absolutely. There are always beautiful lessons to learn, right? Like even brand new people, failure. What is failure? What is the meaning we give to failure? There's no such thing. Right? Like failure is fuel to move you forward. Like this is easy. We actually want to fail. It means we're trying things, like we're doing things. So all the meanings that we give, I was talking to a client today, and here's another one that even your listeners, I know your listeners, everyone will have experienced this at some point, getting really attached to an outcome. Well, if this person doesn't say yes to my offer, then that means all these things, right? Like we give it all this really disempowering meaning. And while it could mean the offer is not great, it probably more likely means the messaging and the vehicle and the other things around it that you get to start looking at, and the delivery and how confident are you in it and all of those things. It doesn't, like, what's that saying? Throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like, it doesn't mean that we're burning everything down. It means we get to take a step back and check the data and see what we're willing to change, right? See what we're willing to shift on to then figure it out. Like, okay, I'm going to shift this and see how that turns out. So the meaning that we give to something, we get to be more intentional about it and really attend, like, really? Is that what I think that means?
It's so true. So true. I mean, all the time attaching stories and meanings to things, and then like putting something out in social media and not really getting any engagement, or, these things we go, oh, well, that's pointless. Nobody liked that. People judged me. I'm an imposter. All of these typical mindset problems that keep cropping up and keep giving us this block that's stopping us just being consistent and being resilient and just going forward as we're meant to do.
I love that you said imposter. I have two schools of thought on imposter syndrome. And one of them is not as widely held as the other one. There's what everybody feels like imposter syndrome is, right? And then I also believe that there are lots of times that we are in imposter syndrome because we are out of alignment. We feel like an imposter because we're trying to do it the way someone else does it, and we have not found our own groove. And this is where I see imposter syndrome pop up. And you get to decide, am I feeling imposter syndrome because I'm feeling misalignment, like with my core values, with the kind of business that I want to build and run? Or am I feeling imposter syndrome because I'm bumping up against like pushing through that next level? This is where you get to be super wise and just tune in and do that self-check. Like, what is the imposter syndrome actually stemming from? Because we can feel imposter syndrome when we are trying to copy so-and-so's business, or we are, and we have forgotten that we get to put our own magic on it. It doesn't have to look exactly the same way. You don't have to only launch XYZ ways, right? You can only have a challenge. You can only go into a 7-day card open. It can only like, and when we're going, oh, a 7-day card open, I want to die. Yeah, you're out of alignment, which is why you're feeling like an imposter and you don't want to send those emails and you don't want to go live again and say the card's still open.
I am so happy you raised this stuff, because this is really, really important. You know, when people first come into the online business world to be coaches, you come in usually via some training, via somebody that's big in the industry, and you start to think that that's the way it's done. I myself at the beginning did some training by a very well-known, very, very large business coach who talks about doing digital courses and big launches, and thought that I also had to do a big launch model. And honestly, you know, I had a tiny audience. I must have racked up 5 email sequences, all of which I wrote myself, and all of the promotion and all of the webinars and all of this. And, you know, I got very, very modest success, to say the least. But what I got most out of it was completely burned out. I felt terrible. And I was like, if this is what this is all about, then I'm not sure I've made the right decision. But now I run an evergreen program and I'm in a completely different zone. And you mentioned that earlier. And it's not something I've spoken about much on the podcast. And it's something that should be spoken about more. And I would love, Mindi, if you don't mind, to share some of the typically aligned strategies that people that don't want the hustle tend to ignore, perhaps.
Yes. So of course, like some sort of evergreen, and here's what I will caution about evergreen too, as you'll know, we don't evergreen it until it's proven, right? We're not going to evergreen a webinar that we did once because we didn't like doing the webinar. Okay, well, so let's find a more aligned way of showing up for our audience. And when it works, then we're going to evergreen it. So this client that I was telling you about, proven model over and over and over again, you know, and so knowing that turning it evergreen was still going to be just as successful, right? As she could step out of it. So I actually am in the process of creating what will be an evergreen. I don't have an evergreen piece at this point. I love showing up live. So this is aligned for me to show up live for a 30-minute live training. Like, I love that, to then make an offer at the end of it, really come in and teach and reach people where they're at and give them some meat to take. This is vital to me in a webinar or in a come to my free training. You better give me something and not spend the first 30 minutes talking about yourself because I'm out, right? Like, this is not aligned with me. So getting that and then going into an offer there, that feels really good to me, to do something live like that. And when it starts feeling out of alignment, like there's a better way, then I'll start shifting. And I think that's important, is checking the data. This is so important. Know what you want, take action, check the data. Okay, what is the data telling me? And what am I willing to do? Is it that I haven't figured out the right time? Is it that I haven't figured out the right sequence? Is it that, like, knowing that every step is a learning step, that this isn't going to be the first time you do a training. You might do it in a different way, but this is what we do in business, right? We repeat until we then find the proven method. And then we get to put that on autopilot. We get to put that on evergreen. We get to know, like, that works. I don't need to mess with this anymore. Now I get to start tweaking something else. So I think that is really important in that alignment, like finding those strategies for alignment. I am, like I said, creating, and I keep doing this. I have no idea why. I know you guys can't see me, but I keep like making a goalpost with my arms. I don't know why. I am creating a thing that is an evergreen 10 episode podcast. And so while I am not ready to dive into the podcasting zone at all for myself as a host, I know that this will be an amazing way to take someone on a customer journey, to get to know me, to really understand my methodology. This will be an evergreen piece that will be out there, living for me, working for me without me needing to show up. And that's the beauty of pieces like that, of online courses, things of those nature, right? Where they can be working for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, for me, that whole evergreen program piece came about because I'd become quite disillusioned over the fact that, the cart would open, there'd be false scarcity, false urgency. And whilst, occasionally it has its place, I just felt that for me, I wanted to always be available and have my program. When I say evergreen, I mean that it's on all the time. So people can join when it's right for them. And I don't need to go into those false scarcity tactics. I can be a lot more aligned and have the right integrity. Now, I'm not to say, and I love your energy about the launch. And in fact, I'm really looking forward to a point in the future where I am going to do a launch again, because there's an excitement and there's a passion and an energy to it. But I also love the fact that we have choices. And you allude to the fact that, with your clients and in this industry in general, we don't have to blindly follow something that we saw somebody else do, even though they were super successful. We can't replicate it because we're not them, and their energy is different to ours.
Exactly. We're not them. Yay that we're not them. Because guess what? They're not us either. I think we can lose sight of this as well. We're all freaking unicorns. Like, we are all magical unicorns with our own superpowers. Even if you lined up a bunch of mindset coaches next to me, right? I have superpowers that they don't have. I work in different ways that they don't do, even if we were all under this umbrella, right? So really tapping into that and owning it. Like, this is me, and this is how I present, and this is what lights me up. And I want to help you find what lights you up as well. This is what sets you apart. Like, we don't want to be vanilla. If we're not pissing somebody off, we're not doing it. Like, we want those. We want to repel, right? We want someone who is coming across this and hearing us say rest breeds productivity. We're like, no, you can sleep when you die. Okay, bye. Like, this isn't the show for you, right? And that's okay.
Yeah, so much. In fact, I was chatting to somebody earlier today, and she was saying, oh, it's so brave of you to bring so much woo-woo into your podcast and into your business and what you do. And I thought that was a strange thing, because I didn't feel it was brave. I just felt that this was the way that you kind of have to just be yourself, because you're not going to last in this business if you're constantly trying to be somebody else. And it doesn't matter that person's a 7-figure coach, a multiple 8-figure coach, that you think, oh, they must know it all. You still have to filter what they say with your own, energies, desires, the way you like to work. And I think it's incredible that people get to such a stage of success, to the point of the women that you often work with, before they say enough's enough. What do you think is the moment that means they're really going to do something more sustainable now? Like, where do you see it click? Where does the magic take place?
There is not just one spot. Sometimes it's after, a failed launch. Right? Like, unaligned, after an unaligned launch. Sometimes it's after a big life switch. Sometimes I had a client come to me right when COVID hit. She had a very successful brick and mortar business now, and it got shut down. everything had to switch to online. She was convinced she couldn't do it online. There's no way she could recreate this business online. Fast forward, $80,000 launch, $60,000 launch. Like there's a moment, and it's never the same. Another client of mine, we met on a coffee chat like you and I did, right? Someone introduced us. Someone said, you guys should chat. I think you'll really like each other. You'll find some alignment. We spoke, we really did hit it off. 2 months later, she reaches out to me and she's like, I need you. Like, I've been thinking about you since we talked. So sometimes that's the catalyst. Like one of my superpowers is bringing the unconscious conscious. And so I can sit and have a conversation with someone 5 minutes and I can hear what their beliefs are and where they are blocking themselves pretty quickly.
And you said to me earlier, Mindi, about mental rehearsal. And I love to be prepared. I'm an action taker at heart. And I would love to know, like, how can we use this idea of mental rehearsal to help us get further in our businesses, which is why we're here, why we're listening to this podcast, why we're doing the things that we're doing in our businesses.
Mental rehearsal is one of the quickest ways to rewire your brain, which I said in the beginning, I'm absolutely obsessed with rewiring the brain so that we can. So when we rewire, it is to expand. It is to step into limitlessness. What we tend to do is fight for our limitations. And this is how our brain is wired. So as we rewire, then we get to see all the possibilities that open up. Remember, we grow this filter, this RAS of what it lets in as we rewire and allow ourselves to see the possibilities. So mental rehearsal is taking a well-formed outcome like I'm going to drink more water. Okay, great. Let's quantify that. I want to drink 64 ounces of water every day. So this is my well-formed outcome. This is, and the difference between a goal and an outcome, a goal is an aim, it's a direction, it's a purpose. They're essential. And there's lots of times we set them and don't get them. An outcome is what actually happens. It is the result of the action that we take. So I like to work in outcomes more than goals. Goals are great. And then, okay, so what's the outcome? And let's reverse engineer from the outcome of it so that we can really see what action we can take in order to get there. So if my outcome is drinking 64 ounces of water a day, and I want to mentally rehearse this, I not only see myself drinking water, I hear it, I taste it, I feel it, I smell it, I think it, I dive into a swimming pool of what's it going to be like? Who am I going to be when I'm so hydrated because I'm drinking 64 ounces of water a day? Am I setting a timer on my phone? Am I putting a sticky note on the refrigerator door? Did you drink your water? Like, what are all the steps that I'm taking to create this outcome? Because I get to create it, right? Law of attraction. I get to create this outcome. I can call it into me. And I can embody the human who. So what am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I feeling? What am I saying about creating this outcome of drinking water? And I get to just watch myself do this. So hear it, taste it, feel it, smell it, right? I can feel the water. I can see all the fun glasses I'm using to drink out of. I can hear the ding of my phone reminding me, hey, have you had your 8 ounces yet? For this hour, like all the things. And I just see that. And I go from A to my well-formed outcome, right? From start to my well-formed outcome. This is a mental rehearsal. You can do this with anything. I do it anytime before I go on a podcast, because the well-formed outcome is always, this is the most downloaded episode this show has ever had.
I can live with that.
See, and it's an outcome that's good for everyone, right? For the highest good. So I see that. Now, when you get practiced in doing mental rehearsal, you don't just do the simplest path, like, oh, everything's going to go great. Joe and I are going to get on. There's not going to be one issue. There's not going to be anything that needs to be edited out, right? It's just going to go from start to finish. Boop, we're going to be done. Well, that's not life, is it? And so
Well, what I'm wondering, Mindi, and of course everybody listening doesn't know, but we've had to edit out the sound of, what was it, a hurricane?
A tornado.
A tornado warning. We don't have that in London, but like this noise came through and I'm looking around, I'm like looking at Mindy, she's just talking and I'm thinking, I can hear this really loud noise. It's getting louder. And eventually Mindy's like, oh yeah, that's a tornado warning where I am. Did that come up in your mental rehearsal? Just wondering.
So here's the beauty of that. Not exactly. And technical difficulties, I know that they will happen. Here's the reason that we mentally rehearse. And we mentally rehearse the perfect path to our outcome. And we also get to, as we practice, mentally rehearse some curveballs and some twists and some technical difficulties, never stopping us from the outcome that we have set. The only thing I can control is me. So I could let a technical difficulty make me go, well, that's it. This was the worst ever. Like, I could let the fact that I forgot to drink 2 of my 8-ounce glasses of water, right? Like, and now I want to squeeze them in or what. We could let these facts get us off track. And yet you don't have to. We mentally rehearse to rewire the brain because the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So if I envision myself and I embody myself being a podcast guest who provides the host with the most downloaded ever, right? With the most downloaded episode ever, right? And I step into that when I go to record the show, my brain's like, oh, we've been here already. We've done this. It negates some of the stress of doing this new thing, of thinking this new way. So it's the same thing with the water. It's whatever outcome you put on it. This is Olympic medal stuff. Olympic gold medalist, Michael Phelps, like they use mental rehearsal and they win gold medals because of it. So if you really want to move the needle in your business, you really want to next level yourself, you get to mentally rehearse a conversation, an email, like the outcome of an email that you're going to send, who you're going to be. This is the magic in it. It's not just the outcome, because the outcomes are amazing. They're milestones that you get to recognize on the path of becoming the human who. What you're really going for is the identity. So I don't just go on one podcast and have the most downloaded episode, right? This is just a given for all the podcasts I go on because I am bringing it. I am the human who. I don't just drink 1 glass of water or do one day drinking 8 64-ounce glass of water. I'm a water drinker. You will always find me with water. This is in my identity. We are creating an identity when we mentally rehearse.
I'm completely sold, like completely. What I'm hearing is the what and the why. And I'm going to totally put you on the hook because I find like I overthink this stuff and I think this is good. I really want to do this. And I'm sure like I'm talking to you who are listening right now. I know that you're thinking the same as me, which is how do I do this? I want to mentally rehearse, right? So This sounds hard. It sounds like when people first say you need to meditate and you're like, yeah, I get it. But like, that's not so simple. My mind's wandering and like, do I do it when and how? And like, what's the nitty gritty?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that question and then I'm gonna give you the magic to put on top of it too, the secret sauce for it. So what are you going to see? What are you going to taste? What are you going to hear? What are you going to smell? It can take 5 minutes. It can take 2 minutes. First, come up with an outcome that you want. And that's why I said water. Like it's 5 o'clock. It's the end of the day and you've consumed X number of glasses. Like this is the outcome that you want. Okay, let's reverse engineer this in your head so that you can just see this in a 2-minute sequence. Like, okay, bing, I hear the timers going off. Oh, I feel my tummy full from the water. Oh, you're feeling, you're hearing, you're tasting, you're hearing, someone say to you, dang, are you drinking water again? Like whatever it is, right? Again, the timer going off, you're seeing the beautiful glass. The reason that you get to dive into a swimming pool of it is because this is visualization on steroids. When you can bring it into every cell of your body, this is experiencing the wish fulfilled before it's happened, right? Like this is you vibrating at the frequency of it's already done. So now do it, like show up in it. It's already done. So how do you get to show up in it? So start with something small. Start with something that feels easy to mentally rehearse. Again, the water's easy. Maybe you want to, I don't know, like that's all that's coming to me at this. Maybe you want to be on your phone less. No, this is a good one too. Maybe you don't want to check your phone very first thing when you wake up in the morning. Okay, great. So what are you moving your attention to instead? So I wake up in the morning and I say 5 things that I'm grateful for. And I don't look at my phone. Now, this is a habit for people. So they're going to be, and I go, nope, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm going to stretch for 2 minutes. And then I'm going to get my phone. Like you can see yourself doing the things, right? Because what we're really doing is training our brain for a new habit. And so the old habits will want to come up, but just pick something, and pick something that feels doable so that you can then stair step it and stair step it and stair step it.
I love how you've walked us through the steps here. And I'm going to give you one to walk me through the steps because this is something that's come up for me and it comes up for so many people I work with and so many people that contact me from listening to particular episodes on the podcast. And it's around the fear of visibility and it's particularly about going live. Okay. It's just a thing. And so how would a typical like mental rehearsal look for going live?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. Okay. What am I going to wear? Do I have perfume on? Like, can I smell my perfume? What does the chair feel like in my butt? Like me, I'm standing right now, but like, am I standing at my desk? What does the chair feel like? What does the lighting look like? What room am I in? Like start creating the whole scene for yourself. And I'm guessing that the actual outcome is I went live and didn't die. I went live and had some level of confidence. I went live and sparkled. Okay, great. I went live and sparkled. Now, here's the thing. You know what sparkle means. Like my sparkle and your sparkle, right? I don't know. So you get to know what you want to feel like at the end. How do I want to feel? What do I want to be thinking at the end? I want to think that was good and it gets to be better, right? Like I want to think I talked directly to my ideal client in that video, right? I spoke to that one person. Here's another thing I would do if you're uncomfortable in these, I would have a picture on my screen, on my laptop, whatever I'm going live on. I'd have a picture right there of that one client that I'm speaking to. So I'm not speaking to the masses. It's not as a scary thing that I've decided that it is. I'm having a conversation with one person, like you and I are having a conversation right now. And I'm feeling myself breathe in and I've got my glass of water with me and I know what I want to talk about when I go live. I'm just planning it out. So I get the well-formed outcome, then I reverse engineer it. Like what gets to happen here? What gets to happen here? And then I mentally go through it in my head, feeling it, hearing it, tasting it. I'm saying it out loud. I'm practicing a way of being, right? I'm practicing embodying this identity. Now, here's the secret sauce.
Tell us.
Lots of you are going, but I've never done it and felt really sparkly. So how could I know what that's going to feel like? This is what I am encouraging you not to do is have a well-formed outcome and then go, I wish this would be how it would turn out. You're already in disbelief. You've already checked out of it. Like it's already going to be that much more difficult. So instead, find your of course energy. What's of course energy?
Yeah.
Of course energy is any automatic thing that you do that is empowering for you. So maybe that looks like, and it gets to be this small. The moment I wake up in the morning, I go brush my teeth. I walk the dog every day after dinner. I kiss my kids goodnight. Some empowering, moving forward. You don't even think about it. I always, as soon as I get up in the morning and brush my teeth, I have a glass of water. Like this is absolute, of course, energy, water for me. I got on this call 10 minutes early. So if anything went sideways, I could log in. This is my, of course, energy. So can you think of some empowering, of course, energy that you have? You guys don't have to overthink it. It's really simple. Like I always kiss the kids, or I always do this, or I always do that. It's some always empowering energy. All right. So now let's get in it. Find your always empowering energy, whatever it is. Close your eyes. Take a big deep breath. You're in that energy. You know what it feels like. You know who you're being when you kiss the kids, drink your water, walk the dog. Now I want you to take that energy and copy and paste it into your mental rehearsal. You're starting in your, of course, energy. You're starting in, this is who I am. Of course, I'm going to show up this way. And then you're walking through your mental rehearsal. That's the secret sauce.
I love that. And I was in my, of course, energy right there with my eyes closed. I was brushing my teeth. It was cool. It was easy. It was, of course. It's so easy for us to overlook these sorts of things and push in our businesses and get frustrated. And I love the fact that there's these tools that once we engage with them, just things can be created with ease. And thank you so much for sharing that with us today, Mindy.
You're so welcome.
It's real food for thought for me. I'm going to definitely work on this one. And I don't suppose this is going to be too much of a stretch, but of course, at the end of every episode, we always do some inspired action invitation. And I would love it if you're happy to share with us, what could we do this week just to get us along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you want? What's your well-formed outcome? Like, I'm going to encourage you to mentally rehearse, and I'm going to make it easier for you in just a minute. And what do you want? Who do you want to be? And when you're being that person, what's something that you get to accomplish, right? And how do you get to feel about it? And what do you get to think about yourself? Like really checking in with yourself about what you want. All too often we don't dream and we don't go after our desires, right? We get more practical or pragmatic. I'm encouraging you to get really curious. Are you moving in the direction that you want? And there's no space for shame or guilt here. We're leaving those at the door and we're just getting curious about where we are and how we get to continue to either with momentum in our business or make a shift so that we can create some momentum. So what do you want? Have that outcome so that you can mentally rehearse it, so that you can start recognizing when you're not being that human. And then just get curious. Well, what makes me not continue to be this human? What made me decide that this action was the action that had to happen when really it wasn't? You know what I mean?
Absolutely powerful stuff. Thank you so much. And Mindy, where can we find you online?
Yes, everywhere at Mindi Huebner. And actually, I have a guided mental rehearsal for you. So it's at rewireyourbrainclub.com. And it's a 12-minute guided mental rehearsal to walk you through your outcome. Like it's just me guiding you. So there's none of that. Well, what do I do now? What do I have? What about now? This way it's super easy for you. And again, you can find me everywhere at Mindi Huebner. I just joined TikTok. Please come follow me there.
Me and my kids will find you on TikTok. And thank you. I did ask you for the how earlier, and it doesn't get much easier than actually guiding us through it. So thank you. And all of those links are going to be in the show notes. So you can drop in there and tap into Mindy's guided mental rehearsal. Thank you, Mindy, for joining us today. I appreciate you so much.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you.
What a great inspired action invitation. The idea of doing mental rehearsal for the things that we want to achieve. Now, whether that is going live or any of the other number of things that you want to do in your business, to actually picture it from beginning to end and even see it go slightly off course and you bringing it back is super powerful. And I know that I'm going to be doing that a lot this week. I loved Mindy's visualization over her having the most downloaded episodes for the podcast that she goes on. And I have that vision too. And I'm calling in now for your help to help my podcast grow to the next level. And by leaving a review, you can make all the difference. Please, after you finish listening to this episode, press the little button, those 3 dots, particularly if you're on Apple Podcasts, and go in and leave a review. If you're enjoying this, I would appreciate 5 stars. And just say why you listen to the show and anything you might like about it. If you can leave a review and send me a screen grab of your review, I would delight in sending you my visualization for quantum leaping your success. It's an audio I've recorded lately that has had a phenomenal response. People are excited, and given that we're all into this visualizing things happening before they happen and then stepping into that success, I would love to share that with you. So pop in, leave a review, send me the screen grab. You can send it to me on Instagram at iamjoe.ingram, or you could send it to me by email to joe@iamjoeingram.com. Have an inspired action week. Take care. Bye now.